AITA for ignoring the existence of my dad's ex-wife current GF? I'll try to sum it up as quick as possible, but there's quite a bit of history. For context, my 23F dad 50 married this woman he knew in HS, we'll call her E, in early 2018 after only talking for a few months. I was livid at the time, as my dad has a track record of marrying women he barely knows and then finding out, surprise surprise, that they're awful or they're incompatible, etc etc. My younger sister and I have been put through a lot of shit growing up due to this, and it's very much a sore spot for me. My dad was also very emotional, abusive and even physically abusive when we were younger due to severe mental shit of his own. Anyway, this would be his fourth marriage, and as expected, it was a total shit show. At the time, I was no longer living with my dad, so I didn't experience any of this firsthand. I mostly heard things through my sister, who still lived with him, and from my dad, who constantly used us as free therapists. I wish I could say there was even a period of time in their relationship that was pleasant, but he moved her in right away, and pretty soon after it was discovered that she was an alcoholic. Now I have nothing against addicts. My mother was addict before her addiction took her earlier this year. I have a lot of pain associated with addiction from growing up with my mom and my own battles with addictive behavior, but I believe people are people and not their addictions, and have nothing but empathy for those situations. However, E tended to be very inappropriate with my sister, who was 15-16 at the time of her moving in, and crossed many boundaries. Not quite predatory, but borderline. E would also constantly start fights with my dad, who was already quite the himself, and then put my sister in between. She would sometimes be extremely mean and say the nastiest things, including one time where she accused my dad of having an incestuous relationship with my sister. Her accusations were very graphic, and I won't be repeating them. All this to say, I didn't trust E from the very beginning, and none of these situations helped, obviously. For those 3 years, I always kept my distance, and recall having only one conversation with E beyond pleasantries where I explained to her that I would never see her as anything other than my dad's wife, and she needed to respect that. I had dealt with enough in my life and didn't care to willingly add to it. Bringing us back to present day, my dad finally finalized their divorce last month after being separated and living in different states for over 2 years. But here's the fun part: my sister calls me last week and tells me my dad and E have gotten back together, and she's moving into his house that night. Mind you, my dad has not said anything about this to me, even though he's had ample opportunity out. That aside, I decided to not bring it up to him at all or let it ruin my day. A few years ago, I probably would have cussed him out over this, but I've been working on myself heavily for the past year. I'm going back to school in a few weeks, have a new job and apartment, and feel like I'm at an okay place with my mom's passing. I will not let this affect me, but I'm also not tolerating any of the BS, so I'm pretending he doesn't exist. Am I petty? Maybe, but I refuse to give this lady any attention. My dad thinks I should come around, or that eventually I'll forgive and forget, but that's not happening. I feel fairly secure in my decision, but can't help wondering if I'm being too harsh. AITA, edit to include TLDR. My dad got back together with his abusive, alcoholic ex-wife who made my sister's late teens hell, so I'm ignoring her existence. Dad thinks I should forgive and forget, but I don't think I should have to.